Alright, moving on to the supplementals, we'll show you how to customize this group of elements. We twirl open the supplementals folder here, and one of the first things we want to do is open up the customization folder here, which has two other elements inside. One is the candidates and one is the supplemental global appearance. So there's a few elements in this folder: candidate headshots, candidate names for Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, the three major parties that you might want to use in the project. So I have imported a few headshots here and cut out the subject from the background using the pen tool. If you don't know how to cut out a subject from the background, I've included a tutorial on how to cut out images from the background. So navigate to the tutorials folder and watch that tutorial on how to accomplish cutting this out. You don't have to use cutout images. You can also use full frame images if you wish. You don't have to cut the subject out, although it does look a lot better with the subject cut out in this design. You'll lose a few design features if you don't cut the subject out from the background, but it is possible just to go with a full frame if you wish. So this is the Democratic candidate headshot, and then the Democratic candidate name. What we have here is a live customizable layer, the Rajani font, which is a free font downloadable on fontsquirrel.com. There's a link in the project, so if you like the font, go ahead and download it and use it. So we can customize this to be whatever. I just made up a last name with the Democratic marker here. You could, for example, go with like a full name like that, or you could just go with the last name without the marker at all. So whatever you want this to be, you can change it to whatever. The rest of these are the same. The independent candidate, same thing, cutout headshot, and then last name, and then the Republican headshot with his last name as well. So that's basically the candidates. Moving on to the global supplemental appearance. What we've done here is you could customize the background of all the supplementals simply by changing this background color. And I have a slightly different gradient in here than I did in the preview. I like this one actually a lot better. I sort of wish I would have gone with this in the preview, but we can change this color to whatever we want, and it updates the background, as you can see. We could even go with like a monotone look if we wish. Something like that, which I think looks pretty cool. But we're going to revert back to what we had here originally. So that's how you update the background, which would be reflected throughout the rest of the supplemental package. And then as far as changing, we could also change the star color in the background, which is currently white. You just click on the map white 2 key, and we'll just change this to something that would be pretty obvious to see. Give this a green tint, which changes the stars, the color of the stars to have a green tint. So you can customize that as well. Now, as far as these candidate, or I should say political party swatches on the left here, any color that you change these to will be also reflected throughout the supplemental package. So if you wanted, say, for example, a more vibrant blue for the Democrats, click on the swatch, go up here to the tint, and then make it a more saturated blue, darker blue color. And then watch this Blair headshot here to see the color change. So you can see it's a much darker, more saturated blue. Same thing for red if we wanted the Republican red to be like a darker red. We can do that as well, and then it updates. So just keep in mind, anything that you change in here is going to be reflected throughout the entire project. All right. Moving on to the actual elements themselves, there's 4 customizable backgrounds to choose from. So you could use these as, you could actually render these out if you wish to use as backgrounds in other projects. We're actually going to save election results for last, since that's a little bit more involved. But the lower thirds, there's a 1-line, 2-line, 3-line, basic name lower third, and then the results screen. We'll just open up this 1 line, and as you can see, there's a editable live text layer here. We can double click on that and change the name to pretty much whatever we want. If we open up the 1-line build composition here, you can also see we could change the background. If we don't like this background, we could use a different background. Background 3 or background 2 or background 1. Whichever background we think looks best in this lower third, we can change it. Same thing with the 2 line. It's basically the same thing as the 1 line, except it has an extra text layer. Again, we could change the background here as well to anything we want. All right. 3 line, same concept, just has an additional bar here at the bottom. And then the name bar, which is basically just a shorter version with just a name. And then the candidate results, which will take a second to load because it features the map, the customizable voting map, which usually takes a second to load because it's got quite a few layers going on. But as you can see, we can change the background here as well. Kind of like that version 2 since it works well with the gradient. But we have our map, which we will cover in just a second. And then we have customizable percentage layers in here. So say, for example, the Democrats up maybe 54% to 46%, something like that. We can change those stats right there. Another thing that needs to be mentioned in all of the lower thirds, the duration is customizable. It's currently set up to play for about 18 seconds, but let's say, for example, you only want the lower third to be on the screen for 5 seconds. All we need to do is highlight these 2 red layers here, position our playhead where we want it, and then drag both layers back to where it says out. And now at 5 seconds, it will animate off the screen. And that's the case for all of these lower thirds. Just drag these 2 top layers. The lower third candidate results a little bit different. This top control layer, you just highlight the layer, hit the U key to show the keyframes, and then you would select these 2 keyframes on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right, and drag those back to wherever you want, and that's where it will animate off of the screen. All right. So we'll move on to side panels, which again is basically straightforward. Again, we have a left and a right. This is the left version. We can again change the background to anything we want. And we can change the content by opening up this lower third content. We can add images, text, video, anything we want as long as it sits within this box and is within title safe. That's important. And then right side, same thing. We can change the background if we want. And the duration, or I'm sorry, the content, we could add anything we want here. And then we can also change the duration by clicking on this edge, or this actually is the control layer. We can click on this control layer and again select the keyframes here and move this to any point we want, and now it will animate off at 6 seconds. And there we go. Revert back to the original there. Okay, that's the side panels. Moving on to the split screens. Essentially the same concept. This is a full split screen with full videos on each side and then just kind of a bar in the middle. So we would add our content to the split screen full left and split screen full right to show video or whatever content we want to display on either side. The windows, same exact concept again. We can change the background if we want. And then split screen window left and split screen window right. We can add our content to these and they will play within those 2 windows. All right, the transitions. Transition 1 will kind of show how this works here. Let's see, we'll go with this and this. So this transition here, the split point is at 2 seconds. So what we have here is I just placed 2 images in to kind of show how the transition works, to pretend this is video. So transition comes in, and then at 2 seconds it's full frame, and then transitions to the next image. So I'll preview this here, show you what it looks like. The mat comes in over the footage. Then at the 2 second mark, we have a full frame. And it begins to animate off to the next image source. And there we go. All right. So that's transition 1, and then transition 2 works in the exact same way. It's just a little bit different on the timing. Instead of at 2 seconds, this splits at 1 second and 10 frames. So we'll preview that as well, show you how it works. So the star map comes on and then wipes away. So it's a little bit quicker of a transition. And you can add sound effects to this if you wish. It would be pretty cool if you added sound effects. Also, if you open up the transition background, you can change the background here if you want to go with something different. Adds a different look to it. But we'll delete that. And that's the transitions. Okay, now moving on to the election results, which is sort of a little bit more involved. First, we'll go to our maps. And what we'll do is open up our vote map customization. And all we need to do is to change these states. So say, for example, we wanted Pennsylvania to actually be a Democratic state rather than a Republican state. So all we do is highlight the little Pennsylvania swatch here on the right-hand side, go up to Map Black 2, use our little color swatch, and then hover over the little swatch up here at the top, and now it's a blue state rather than a red state. And say, for example, if we wanted Florida to be a red state, again, we just highlight the Florida tab and then select one of our states here on the right or the swatch above, and we can customize all of these states accordingly. Now, other things that we need to customize as far as maps go, we have 2 other elements in here, the electoral results and the popular results. The electoral results are obviously you need 270 electoral votes to win the nomination. So let's say, for example, the Democrats have 240 and the Republicans have, I don't know, 108 or something like that. So these are customizable text layers. We can also, if we're not showing the independent party, we can turn that off here. And then this bar is sort of customizable. If you want to show a difference in proportion, you can double click on this mask and sort of make it a little bit bigger. Now, I didn't want to make this automatically update when you change the number because in some cases you might not want the bar to actually move. You might just want this to stay kind of evenly split. This also works the other way. Let's say 240 for Republicans, 108 for Democrats. We can just shrink the Democratic line. And now we have a greater proportion for the Republicans versus the Democrats. So we can visually represent a greater portion of the votes there. But we will revert those back to the original. All right. And then same thing with the popular vote. Each is just a percentage, basically. So, you know, we can update this to be whatever. And then the candidates, which is fairly important. We'll open up the Democratic candidate here. So everything that we've customized up to this point, the headshot, the color of the candidate, all that stuff is now reflected in this headshot. And all we need to do now is update the voting information. So let's say, for example, our Democratic candidate is currently getting 42% of the vote. And she has, let's say, I don't know, 36,101,000 votes, something like that. So this is all customizable. And this reflects for each of the candidates. So we can change all of that. So once we have our candidates customized, look and see here, we have several elements to work with. We have a screen that shows one candidate alone, and a screen that shows one candidate plus a map. So if you open up the one candidate, we see it animates onto the screen. We'll sort of preview this here so you know what it looks like. So that's our singular candidate screen with nothing else on it. It's just one candidate. Now we're currently showing our Republican candidate. We can turn this off and do a Democratic or independent, and the position and scale of these will be fixed in the main version. I'm just I'm sort of still working through a few bugs here, but that's how you would customize that. And in the one candidate plus map, we'll show you how that looks. We'll preview the animation. So the map comes onto the screen, and the candidate animates on as well. And I think everything is finished animating by about 2 seconds. All right, and we'll preview that. So that's what that looks like. Now, this is currently showing the popular vote map. We can change that by going down here. There will actually be another vote map in here. We'll change it. So this was currently showing the popular vote. There's also an electoral option. We can just switch that on. And there we go. We have to switch this out for that. All right. Okay, so you have either the option of showing the electoral votes or the popular votes. And then you can also customize the background. You can choose whichever background you want to use. If you like that better, or say that one. That one's pretty cool. And then there's also the customizable text layer up here for the title. Customizable title. There we go. So those are essentially all of the customizable elements within each candidate screen. These are all essentially the same, so I won't go too far into them. But for example, here's the 2 candidate, and then the 3 candidate plus 3 candidate map, and then the election results map. This the electoral votes, and then the popular votes as well. So those are all of the election result elements. And I believe that covers pretty much all of the supplementals. I don't think I missed anything, but as always, if you have any comments or questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us through motionrevolver.com or through our Video Hive profile page. There's an email form at the bottom. Once again, thank you so much for purchasing the Election Night project. I'm Tyson France, and good luck with your project.